Hey everybody, this is Jill.
And this is Caryn.
And you're listening to Scream Girl Squad.
Well, welcome everybody. I know some of you were probably expecting us to be reviewing It Chapter 2 this week. Surprise! We will be reviewing that later. Long story short, I was trying to Google a good time to go to the... So here's what happened. Jill was on her way to pick me up, and I just on a whim looked it up on IMDb, kind of pre-checking out the movie. And right there at the top, it says that the movie is 2 hours and 49 minutes long or something like that. Like almost 3 hours long. And my first thought is I can't not pee for that long. So
we all saw Lord of the Rings. That was difficult.
So I thought, I'll find out when that little flashy flash scene from the previews is. Because in the preview for It Chapter 2, there's a scene where they're in like a fun house full of mirrors, and it's very stroby. And I knew, going in that I probably wouldn't be able to watch that scene. So I thought, I'll Google when that scene is, and that's when I'll go to the bathroom, and that's how I'll get through a 3-hour film. And the search results that came up included a Reddit thread that actually warned of pretty significant strobing throughout the last, 30 to 40 minutes of the film. And I started feeling like maybe it's not a good idea for me to actually see it on the theater. So the new plan that I'm actually really, really excited about is Jill is going to go and see that one with some lucky person who gets to be her movie date.
Either Michelle and Mark or Paige.
Excellent.
Duke it out, folks. We'll talk later.
And then she's going to record an episode with me, and I get to be, like the folks of you who listen to us, even though you have no plans of ever seeing that scary movie. She's going to ruin the whole movie for me, and I don't even care, because Jill does such an awesome job recapping films.
Also, Jill may sound weird. She's been sick since Dakota, and has this sinus infection thing that's clearing up, but she still has this awesome, deep, raspy voice.
I love it. Now's the time for you to record that album we've always been talking about.
Is it?
Yeah. It's all husky.
My sticky shoes.
Sorry. Is that another joke that only your mom is going to get?
No, it's on Friends.
Oh, okay.
When Phoebe gets sick, and she has this teaser, and she's like, my sticky shoe.
Oh, yeah, that definitely sounds
like
a
stick
lyric.
on me, baby.
Awesome. So, anyway, because I only discovered this concern about It Chapter 2 as Jill was literally en route to my house. I called her to share
as I was pulling up to her house. I was like, do you see me? What's happening?
Yeah. So, instead, we went to the Hat, which is one of our favorite local places.
Top Hat Video is still an open and running video rental store, which is incredible. So,
yeah,
go rent videos. It's amazing. And
it's so much fun. I honestly wish that we had had a microphone with us, because it's been a long time since I've been there, and it was awesome to walk around with Jill and pick up terrible looking movies and show them to each other. And we debated at length about what film we should, watch and debate tonight, and there were a few contenders. We almost watched The Purge. Mm-hmm. We brought home another one that I think we're going to review next week, but I've already forgotten what it's called.
Katie Holmes at a Big Scary House. That's what it's called. Don't look under the bed.
Don't be afraid of the dark.
That one.
Okay, don't be afraid of the dark. Don't look under the bed.
That actually is a Disney Channel original movie.
Blast! That means we can't make that one. All right. So at the 11th hour, right when we're about to leave the video store, Jill picked up Unfriended Dark Web. Mm-hmm. And that's what we brought home to watch.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's what we get to review for you tonight.
Yeah.
So, Jill, I believe I haven't ever seen any of the rest of the Unfriended series. Is there more than one?
I only know of one. I think there was one original one that I went to with my dear friend Paige, who I hope is listening, because she's like my scary movie buddy. I see 90% of my movies with her. We've seen a lot of terrible ones as well, because we'll just like pull up Netflix and be like, that one looks fun, and that's how you see trolls living under a bridge in a movie, and it's weird. And maybe it's a tunnel? Troll in a tunnel? I don't know. Anyway.
Troll in a tunnel, new band name, I call it.
It's a good one. So we had gone to see this in the theater once and laughed through the whole thing, because the first one was kind of campy.
The first Unfriended.
But it was kind of cool the way it all took place, like, from a computer screen. And so this one definitely fell in that same realm.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. I've seen, like, an episode of Modern Family that the whole thing took place from a computer screen, and
I think it's becoming kind of a genre thing, like, because there's the movie I was telling you about at the video store with, is it John Cho? Is that his name?
That's the name of a person, yes.
And he's in that movie about finding his missing daughter.
Oh, right. You did show me that movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's that one that was really good too, but it's the same thing. All take place like from the view of a computer.
Yeah, I think this is the new found footage, basically. Like,
yeah.
It's the new trend.
Yeah. And then Nerve, which this movie kind of reminded me of, so we'll talk about it as we get into it. But they kind of switch between like regular camera and then seeing from a screen, which I actually prefer. But
yeah.
I think it's, definitely a new style of filming, which makes sense because everyone's so addicted to their screens. Like, you kind of have to adapt to that.
Yeah, and we'll talk about this more in depth in the spoilers, but I think it lended itself pretty well to horror as well. Having lots of different people's screens to watch and everything. But, do you want to give us a quick spoiler-free synopsis before we rate it?
Sure. So a group of friends all get online and have a Skype game night session. It seems like something they do quite regularly, which as adults who have their own lives, I wish I did more of. This sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Like, why do we not have game nights via Skype when I don't have to put pants on? I love it. So they all get, and then I don't know how to spoiler free it. Guy finds a computer and starts discovering things on the computer that kind of get them tangled in a big mess.
A big dark web, if you will. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And, like, Friday brain words no come. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Talk more like that.
No. So, in terms of, I'd like to talk about the fright factor first, because like I said, the kind of way that they filmed it, I thought worked really well for a scary movie.
So as a reminder, we rate all the movies we see on enjoyability and fright factor. So fright factor we base on something in the movie, 1 out of 5. And then enjoyability we'll base off some sort of snack. So 1 out of 5. Because we're munch mouths.
Yay, munch mouths.
Yay.
I want that on a shirt.
I did not coin the term munch mouths.
Yeah, but I still
will take credit.
Like, I'm a munch mouth on a shirt. Anyway.
Can you have just like a mouth, like eating tacos?
Yeah. So what's something scary from this film that we can use to rate it?
Can we just say creepy guy?
Can
that's
we say
real broad.
Can we say special creepy guy because that's from Venture Brothers?
Sure. Special creepy guy it is.
All right then. So on a scale of 1 to 5 special creepy guys, Jill, pressure's on you first. How would you rate this movie?
I'm going to go with 4.
Yeah.
Like, it was incredibly unsettling. I'm going to think about this one for days to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and give it a 5. Because there were so many moments when I was so tense that I worried I was going to make myself throw up or something. Like, I felt the tension in my whole entire body. And I am definitely going to be thinking about, like, there's a freaking webcam looking at me right now, and the little light isn't on, but that doesn't mean, like, you know.
Somebody's not looking at you.
Yeah, it totally has, it shook me, is what it did. So I'm going to give it a 5.
Okay.
And we'll split the difference and call it a 4.5.
Sure.
Special creepy guys out of 5.
Sure. Half a creepy guy sounds extra creepy.
Yes. Now for the toughie, I think.
Sure.
So we ate food that was too spicy during
How
the
about
film.
sodas?
Bottles of orange Fanta.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who loves orange soda? Jill loves orange soda.
She sure does.
I do. Sorry. Did you have to hear that a lot when you were at FanX? Because
No.
Kel was there. Do you know that from Keenan and Kel from Nickelodeon?
Oh, yeah. My friend Kenzie
Yeah.
says that to me every time that we are at lunch together.
Yeah.
And then she always asks if I watched Good Burger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't help it because Jill and Kel work really well, and I love orange soda, so
Yeah.
pretty much for 20 years I've been saying it, and it makes me happy.
Well, I'm very, very pleased then. It stuck with you for so long. So, yeah, scale of 1 to 5 bottles of orange soda. I'm really curious how much you enjoyed the movie.
Maybe 4.
Really?
I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you enjoy
Maybe
the most
3.
about it?
I'm talking myself out of it.
So here's my thing. Here's why I wanted you to go first. I don't freaking know where I sit on this movie.
I'm having a hard time.
For the first 30 minutes of the movie, I was like, dang, this is stellar. Like, like the pacing felt almost on the edge of being too slow, but wasn't really. And so I was thinking, like, I'm going to have like a 4 or a 5 going on here. And then the first scares started rolling in, and I felt how effective they were. And I was like, we're going to have like a double threat. Like, it's going to be really enjoyable and really scary. The longer the film went on, the less I enjoyed it. And that had nothing to do with the way that it was filmed. It was solidly made. The actors did a phenomenal job. Like, well, I'll get into that in the spoilers, but some of the acting in this is incredible. And I think it might just be that there were too many things in it that don't sit right with little old Caryn. So every time one of those things would happen, it was like, chipping away at the enjoyment of the film.
Yeah.
Until at the end, I felt like I was at a 2. So I decided when I reached that level of a 2 that I would kind of meet it in the middle and maybe give it a 3. But I don't know.
I know. Because I really enjoyed it, but there were things that bothered me and things that I thought were unnecessary and unbelievable a little bit, which we can get into. But I really enjoyed myself. And, like, Caryn and I like to take notes, and I was so wrapped up in the movie, I did not take one note. So that's a good sign for me.
Yeah. I was watching, Kelly, as per usual, was watching the movie with us, and I was watching his face at the end. And he just had this, like, expression of deep no.
Yes.
So I don't know. I'm vacillating a little bit, because honestly, I loved it so much at the beginning. That's why I'm not sure where I sit. Like, do I give it a 3? Do I give it a 4? Do I give it a 2? Like, what do I do here?
I'm agreeing with you on that one.
Yeah.
And we should give it a 3.5.
Okay.
Just because we don't know.
Yeah. And maybe that's a good thing. And maybe next week when we're talking about a different movie, I'm going to want to come back and be like, no, I figured it out. But for now, we'll go with 3.5 bottles of orange soda.
We can check in at the end and see if we've changed our mind, too.
That's a good idea. Sometimes by the time I'm done rehashing it, I feel differently. So cool. For now, 4.5 special creepy guys, 3.5 bottles of orange soda. Still a very, very reasonable rating.
For sure.
Well, let's go ahead and dive into spoilers.
All right.
Spoilers.
Do you mind taking the reins and doing the majority of the talking?
Oh, no, because Jill's poor voice. Oh, my God, you guys, you're in for a real treat. There is a big reason why Jill does the talking for most of the recaps. So, Unfriended Dark Web starts out in a way that was kind of a little bit confusing, mostly because it's all filmed from the point of view of this one guy's laptop, Matthias or Maddie. And so the movie starts and you're sort of not even sure it started yet, and it's the login screen on the laptop, and you can tell that they don't know what the password is. They're typing in all these hilarious at times passwords like Covfefe and others that I can't remember.
They did is it weird if I say the video game controls that I only know because
like
of dating nerds, but You know, like the
Dating
QW.
nerds. No, I'm calling your crap on that Miss Warcraft 3 forever.
But I'm left-handed, so I played with the other... Like, I would use the arrows and then the mouse.
Yeah,
So
okay.
I didn't ever use the letters.
Let the record show that Jill played a disgusting amount of Warcraft 3.
I got paid to play Warcraft 3. If you want to hear about that.
It doesn't give her as much nerd cred as it sounds like, by the way. At no time was Jill a professional gamer.
No. It just means that I had a real crappy job.
Anyway. Yeah. So... While the guy is, like, trying to get into his computer, my cat George jumped up on the controller and, like, somehow brought up the DVD menu, and then I couldn't figure out how to close it or if it was closed. Because the movie was so confusing to tell what you're actually seeing. Anyway, he gets into the laptop and immediately starts pulling stuff up. Like, he signs into Spotify, he signs into Facebook, and everything that he's signing into... There's already a pre-filled username and password for someone named Nora C. And he's just completely ignoring the existence of this other identity and overwriting it with his own. And he signs into a bunch of stuff, calls his girlfriend Amaya, and he's super excited to show off this thing he made called Papaya. That's actually kind of a cool software where you type in something and it strings together a bunch of chunks of videos of people signing, so that it translates what you've typed into someone signing. Cool idea, kind of stupid, because if you're typing something in, then you could just type it into an instant messenger, which is how he and she ended up communicating for most of it anyway.
Mm-hmm. But I think also it would be really cool because you would learn how to sign at the same time.
Yeah, that would be a nice fringe benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he was thinking about it that way, but...
I don't either.
And she knows that that's not how he was thinking about it, so she gets kind of cranky. Because Amaya is deaf. Mm-hmm. And she's kind of pissed off at him because he's so excited about this program that makes it easier for her to understand what he's saying, because sometimes it's hard to read lips over Skype. But it does nothing to make it easier for him to understand what she's signing. And she's kind of cranky about it, and a little bit later on explains why she's so cranky, but for now she's just like, you know what, I'm done with this conversation, I'm out. And he joins a game night session with his friends via Skype.
Which you can tell right away, they're all like really good buddies who do this all the time. Mm-hmm. And have known each other forever.
Yeah, I got that impression that they were all like maybe college pals.
I got that impression as well.
Yeah, so everyone's kind of in their maybe mid-20s.
Yeah.
And there's a whole set of them. So there's Maddie, the guy with the laptop that we're viewing the events through.
I like to call him Baby Blue Eyes.
Baby Blue Eyes. He did have crazy blue eyes.
Crazy, amazingly beautiful blue eyes. I'm a sucker for blue eyes and dimples, and that kid, like, fit that to a D.
And have you seen him in anything before?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, that was another effective thing this film did.
Yeah.
Use pretty unknown actors.
Yeah.
Unknown to me, anyway. So there's him. There's this guy named AJ, who is like that friend that never shuts up, especially when he should shut up.
He may be an asshole, but he's our asshole.
That's our motto. So AJ, he seems to make lots of like conspiracy theorist videos. So his Facebook feed is all full of stuff about, you know, needing to protect yourself from the government and things about the Illuminati. And he goes off on this insane soapbox about, you know, how people are sheeple and all this stuff. So that's AJ. Mm-hmm. There's a girl named...
We all know one.
Yeah. More than one. My Facebook feed is full of a lot of that stuff.
Yes.
There's Lex, and I got the impression as a music producer, she's sitting in like a production booth.
I think a DJ, maybe.
DJ.
She had like spinning equipment and recording equipment and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, she's definitely like pretty creative and cool. There's Damon. Damon is British.
I think so. They talk about how he's in London.
Yeah. And he's pretty handsome.
He's real pretty.
And he appears to be a software developer. There's like a whiteboard behind him on his webcam that has information about like beta testing and sprints and stuff.
He had a big
server vault.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's into tech. And then there's two girls, Serena and Nori. Was it Nori?
I think so, yeah.
And they're on the same camera. So they're in the same place together sharing a webcam.
Clearly a couple from the get-go. I think they're like holding hands or cuddling when you first see them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it sounds like from their conversation that Amaya, Matt's girlfriend, typically joins, but she's over it for the evening and isn't going to join in.
Yeah.
So they all are joining the same Skype session for game night, essentially. And Serena and Nori share their big news that they just got engaged, which is kind of a little bit happy sad, because it's great that they're engaged, but also Nori's parents aren't comfortable with it.
They weren't very supportive.
Yeah, not supportive at all. And also, Serena's mom is in the ICU with some pretty serious health issues.
Yeah, but she gave her mom's ring, so that was a pretty cute gesture for all that.
Yeah, it was one of those emotional moments where you're like, I'm watching a horror movie, like I should be crying right now.
I just want to give him a hug.
Yeah,
I know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So everything starts out kind of warm and fuzzy, and you're like, oh, what a great little group of friends, and I should definitely be having Skype game nights.
I know. I was like, I want to play with these people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Matt, meanwhile, keeps trying to message Amaya. Like, he doesn't like where their little tiff earlier ended up, and he's trying to convince her to come join the Skype game night. And as he's, like, Skyping with his friends and messaging Amaya, these little notifications keep popping up in the corner of his computer that are messages from other people to that Nora C user whose info had been pre-populated in all the login boxes. And so he does what I have to admit I would probably do.
It'd be really hard not to.
Which is to sign in and see what the messages are about. And weirdly, all of the messages to this Nora C person are from these women who are like, where have you been? I haven't talked to you in so long. Where are the plane tickets? And it becomes clear that these women, multiple of them, some of whom like send videos of them looking attractive, they're expecting Nora to pay for them to fly somewhere, presumably to meet Nora somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And
a lot of the messages are like suggestive. And
yes. Like very suggestive and sexual. Very suggestive
and yeah.
So, and Nora's profile on Facebook also, even though the name is Nora, which I traditionally associate with women, the profile says it's a male, and there's like a picture of like a man's body, and so this Nora C4 in Roman numerals is apparently a man.
Yeah. And it was like a man's body but no face, which was interesting.
Yeah, pretty anonymous.
Yeah.
So all these women are, like, sending these little suggestive messages, and meanwhile the gang is being weird, and AJ's being stupid and saying all the wrong things, and everyone's, like, sending shark videos and just being absurd, and Matt's not super attentive to that because he's still really distracted by the Amaya stuff. And then these other messages start coming in from someone named Erica. And Erica's tone is completely different from all of these women who were messaging Nora before. Erica is pissed and is like, I know you're online. Stop freaking ignoring me. Like, tell me who you are. And Matt finally engages with Erica and is like, well, you tell me who you are. And Erica says, I'm the person whose laptop you stole. And Matt had been telling everyone, oh, I have this great new laptop that I bought on Craigslist.
Yeah.
And
they all were talking about how nice it was. Like, oh my gosh, we can see your face, and welcome to 2019. Like, he clearly was operating on old machinery.
Yeah, and the background, too, of his apartment does not suggest wealth at all.
Yeah.
And he is obviously using, like, a really nice MacBook. He pulls up the system, like the About This Mac window for a moment, and you can tell that it's, like, a newer MacBook Pro, and it has all of these good specs and everything. But oddly, it's running like crap. And it keeps giving him the rainbow circle of death and booting him out of the Skype chat. He has to keep getting back in and signing in. So as he's kind of interacting with all these different people, he's like got the Skype group chat and trying to tackle Amaya and fending off this angry Erica person. He starts up another chat window with Damon, the software developer dude in London, and says, hey, like, what's going on with my computer? And Damon sends him a link to a disk utility to help him figure out why it's running so slowly. And he eventually figures out it's running like crap because the hard drive is completely packed, just crammed full, but he can't see any files. And that utility identifies a hidden folder on the hard drive that's chock full of video files of weird crap. Like, he pulls up the videos and they're of people playing the ukulele to some invisible person.
Doing dishes.
Yeah.
And walking down the stairs, like weird random videos.
Yeah, so some of the videos are clearly from webcams. Some of them are obviously from home security systems. Nothing interesting is happening in any of them.
Right.
Erica calls him out on his crap. You're lying. I want my laptop back. And this person who's messaging from Erica's account also says, I'm not Erica. I'm Nora C. That's who I am. Mm-hmm. So Matt cops to it. He admits, okay, I'll take the laptop back to where I found it. And I'll meet you there.
Yeah.
He tells his buddies, I gotta go. And he starts shutting down the laptop. And as he does, another weird message pops up on Facebook for Nora saying, hey, I loved the last contribution that you made. How much for a custom job like you've never done before? I'll pay you double. I just transfer you the money. And the oddness of that message kind of piques Matt's interest. And he makes his first big mistake.
Right.
Yes.
I think that's fair to say.
So he engages with this person and says, okay, what do you want? And the guy says, don't talk here. Let's talk on the river. And Matt goes back to that hidden folder that he had found. And above all of those videos, there's a link to something called The River. And he double clicks on that and opens it. And it actually does a pretty cool thing where his computer background turns into kind of like old blocky animation, like
it
Minecraft
sort of felt
looking.
like you were playing Wolfenstein.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
3D blocky video game. And it's of a little boat going down an underground river with like a lit torch on the front of it. Mm-hmm. So Matt once again turns to Damon, the software developer, for some assistance and asks, have you ever heard of The River? And Damon hasn't. Matt shares his screen with the entire group so all the friends can see what's going on. And they notice that there's a little pop-up box that is sort of sending Matt through a whole bunch of different like servers all around the world to sort of hide where he really is. I'm sure that there is a technical term for it. I don't know what it is. But Damon and AJ, the two kind of computer guys, like one's computer guy and one's sort of privacy obsessed, they figure out what's going on and they get kind of excited about it. And once he gets logged into the river, there are all of these different users and they all have the same name. Sharon 1, Sharon 2, spelled C-H-R-O-N. And they recognize that as the name of the boatman who works the river Styx and ferries souls back and forth. And I turned to Jill and I was like, oh my god, it's snuff films. Like, that's what this is.
They're in the dark web and this is snuff films.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I love that in movies when they feed you enough that you kind of get these little moments of realization.
Yep.
I feel like I've been talking a lot. Is that
right?
how you always
do? Except I like to talk.
Yeah.
I love the sound of my own voice.
I love the sound of Jill's voice, too. So he kind of explains to his friends a little bit about the computer. Does he admit at that point that he stole it?
I think so, because that's when they realize you're in the dark web. Mm-hmm. Which, for those who don't know, is like the scary part of the internet, where it's like you can buy kidneys and sell people and, you know, the scary part of the internet.
Yeah, because it's untrackable.
Untraceable, yeah. So you can't get in. I love how we're talking about the dark web like we're masters at it. I know nothing.
I know
this movie and the movie Nerve, which I was telling Caryn, this kind of reminded me of the movie Nerve, just because of the whole like dark web and seeing through screens and everybody's watching everything and it's all tangled up together.
Well, and what I know I learned from elementary, because Sherlock Holmes like goes on the dark web sometimes and deals with an anonymous group to get information sometimes.
Yep.
Jill and I are not the kind of people that go on the dark web.
No.
That's not to say that there's, I don't know.
Like a certain type of people, but...
Well, and there could be legitimate reasons, I guess, to be on the dark web.
I don't know what they are.
I don't know what they are. All that I know about is that the things that go on there are the types of things that the FBI watches for.
I don't want to be on one of those lists.
And I figure it's also probably less anonymous than people think that it is, too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, anyway. He's talking to this Sharon 28 or Sharon 68, whatever it is.
It's all Roman numerals, not actual numbers.
Yeah.
So it's like...
He's talking to who I'll refer to as the buyer, who is like, well, I'd like something different than last time. And
he's like, what's what different how or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, longer, darker.
Paint it black. And he requests specifically
slower.
A different method.
Yeah. And then he's like, what method or whatever. And then this is all in the dark web.
Mm-hmm. In the river.
In the river. And he says, what method? And he says, maybe, do you remember what that word was?
Trephination.
Trephination. Which I was pretty sure I knew what it was. And then the guy Googled it and it turns out I was right. So it's when they drill little holes in your skull to relieve pressure. Mm-hmm. So real world application is like you've had a traumatic brain injury and you have a lot of swelling in your brain and there's nowhere for your brain to go.
Which I know about from Star Trek 4.
Yeah, it's a real thing that can happen, or you have a lot of bleeding in your brain and they need to release some of that pressure, so they'll drill little holes to kind of release that pressure.
Yeah, that's good.
Anyway, so it's a real thing that happens, but it also, like, when you lobotomize someone or...
Bah.
There's all kinds of stuff. I know. Sorry, Caryn. Good and bad things happen with this kind of thing.
So it's an actual medical thing.
But it's an actual medical thing that happens. Yeah. But basically, you're just cutting a hole in somebody's skull. Ah. And then the guy says, maybe put something in this time.
And it just gets worse.
And he says, something alive?
Yeah.
Or something?
And more money if it's alive and she's alive and you hold up a mirror and I want to see her see it. And his friends... Like, the face that Jill and Kelly and I all had on our faces were the faces of his friends in their little video chat thing.
Total horror.
Yes.
Total horror. Caryn has a face I like to call the horrified face. And she didn't quite make that face, but she was pretty horrified. Do you remember the horrified face?
Yes, I do. I remember the first time that I made it.
Good.
I was walking along a row of seats at the movie theater.
Exactly.
At Megaplex Gateway, and I stepped on a used condom, and it made a squishy sound underneath my big heeled combat boots, and I didn't even have to lift my foot to know what it was, but I still had to lift my you have to know. So even though you know what's on your shoe, you still lift it, and you look at it. And that's what it was.
And then she came home and told me about it and made the most amazing face I've ever seen in my whole life when she just, like,
no, you were with me when
up her whole face. Oh, that's right.
We were there to see a movie.
That's why you made the face.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's kind of like the Flehmen response in cats when they smell something stinky and they turn and they look at each other with their fangs exposed.
That's right. And then I made you make the face later so I could laugh.
It's reserved for only the most truly horrific moments.
Truly horrific. So she wasn't quite the horrified face, but she was horrified.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then there's kind of a big landslide of discovery where all of his friends are kind of... all of his friends are kind of pushing him in different directions. Like, open that folder. Like, let's look at more of the videos. And AJ figures out that the guy said, I liked your recent contribution. I want to see, like, the most recent videos. So they find a folder within the hidden folder called Contributions, and where the initial set of videos were kind of, like, eerily mundane, these ones are downright horrible.
Like, here's a girl chained in a warehouse, and they put food just out of reach. So watch her, like, run for it, and the chain, like, pulls her back, and she's trying to reach it. And then there's a girl in a tub, and they're about to pour some chemical on her, and it doesn't say what it is, just corrosive. Yeah. Or then it shows, like, a row of barrels, and they just open, like, pull out the stopper in one of the barrels. You just see, like, a woman's eye. Mm-hmm.
And she's, like, alive in there.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff that's
horrified,
like...
just eye.
Yeah. Deep fears for anyone.
Yeah, especially
truly
a woman.
Scary stuff, yeah. And in all the videos, the guy kind of, like, lifts his hood a little bit and almost, like, winks at the camera, you know, like, I'm doing this for someone like the buyer. And so then they say, let's look at the most recent video. Because it was labeled differently. And it had, like, an address. And a name. It said Erica and an address. And the video is of a girl asleep in her bed with the window open, which that's another thing that I'm never doing.
No.
And someone climbs in the window and doesn't touch her. He just looks at the camera and lifts his hood again, like, this is me and this is her. Almost like...
Like, I can get her if you want.
Yeah. So his friends, Matt and his friends are all at this point completely freaked out. And I, at that immediate moment, 100% would have called 911. And I don't know why they even took the time to debate about it.
I mean, like, I pretty quick would have been like, this is some dark, scary crap. Let's take this laptop, go to the cops. Like, I can't handle this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, meanwhile, Nora is messaging Matt, and he's like, hey, I'm at the cafe and you're not there. And so where the F is my computer? And Matt obviously can't answer because he can't be like, I didn't bring it because I found your secret folder of snuff films and I'm watching them. So,
found your secret stash.
Yeah. Somehow, this Nora person finds out that Matt is connected to Amaya, and he goes... Well, no,
like,
let me back up.
no, because he's like, no, I'm not coming, or whatever, like, doesn't answer back at the cafe.
Yeah.
And he's like, guys, what do I do? What do I do? And they're trying to figure it out. And then he gets a call from Amaya.
Yeah.
That's how it happens. And so he answers the call from Amaya, and it's totally empty. Like, the room is empty.
Yeah, she's not at her desk. You can hear a shower going in the other room.
And then you can see flashing, like, the phone is ringing, because Amaya's deaf. So there's a flashing that the phone is ringing, and someone comes in and answers the phone. And you find out it's her roommate. And her roommate sits down at the computer, and he's like, hey, like, where's Amaya? And she's like, she's in the shower. And she's like, can you get her for me? And she's, like, clearly freaked out, like... But she's in the shower. Why do I have to go get her? You know? And, like, while they're talking, somebody comes in.
And the way that they did the video feed, you don't see a figure come in. You see static in the form of a figure. And, like, and weird, what's the word I'm looking for? Disturbances in the video feed and different colors and, like, blocks of things. The patterning honestly made me really, like, uncomfortable and nauseous of someone coming in behind her. And, and the screen goes, like, all black for a second.
That's right.
And when the screen comes back off from being black, this distorted, pixely figure is behind the roommate and puts something around her face and, like, clocks her, knocks her out. That was so tense.
All three of us gasped.
Yeah.
Like, it was it
was an incredibly frightening moment.
Yeah.
My tension, like, was ratcheted up so high I had to pause it and take 5 minutes because I was seriously, like, on the verge of a freak out. It was so well done and the kind of thing that had to be done in that style. So, yeah. So, right then, he's freaking out, and Nora, the antagonist, messages him through Amaya's account and is like, don't tell your friends what's happening. I'll know if you do. And if any of them leave or call the cops or do anything that's suspicious, I will kill Amaya. And I'm going to trade you Amaya for the laptop. So I'm going to send her to your house. You keep her cool. You talk her into going to your house. And then I'll come get the laptop and we'll be done.
And he's like, but if any of this happens, I'll just kill Amaya.
Yep.
Period. End of discussion.
So now she's the hostage. And she doesn't even know it. She comes out of the bathroom and is talking to Matt, and because she couldn't hear the struggle, she's totally unaware that her roommate is unconscious and presumably dead, and Matt is obviously looking stricken, but he manages to spin it like, I'm so upset because we're fighting and I love you so much and I don't want to lose you. Please, 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 please come to my house. And he eventually convinces her to get on the subway and come to his house.
And this movie was interesting in a way that when we watched La Llorona a few weeks ago, Caryn speaks Spanish really well. So she definitely speaks better Spanish than I speak sign language. But there was, like, signing moments in this movie where I was like, oh, I can understand what they're saying, and Caryn didn't, and whereas she understood the Spanish in that one, and I didn't, and so that was kind of fun. But I liked in this movie that they didn't tell you what they were signing, because it, like, built on that we have communication issues. Like, I can't understand her, she can't understand me, like, it was, you know, this hard...
Yeah, and it left it feeling very immersive, too, because we're not just seeing the whole film through the point of view of Matt's laptop, we're really seeing all of these events through his eyes. And he can't understand Amaya signing any better than I can. But I did think about that, too. I thought it was kind of cool that I had to turn to you and be like, what the hell is she saying? I have no idea what's going on.
And I was like, oh, I got this one. Yeah. Not that, I mean, I don't sign amazingly well. I took like 1 year of it, but I can do basic beginner stuff.
Yeah, you taught me the alphabet a couple times.
Yeah.
You'll have to teach it to me again.
I can still do the alphabet. We were on our road trip. I had to be silent for half an hour. Was one of my, like, punishments for not calling somebody their name. And and I, like, was signing. Crystal was sitting up front, so I signed a lot to Crystal. Like, this song that was playing when you walked down the aisle when you got married came on, and I was, like, trying to tell everyone, I was like, Caryn walked down the aisle, she got married.
I love that song.
It was funny.
Obviously, I like that song. I chose it.
Obviously.
Derp. So that was a nice touch. So at this point, Matt has to calm his friends down because they're all freaking out about, you know, the contents of the films and what he's found on his laptop. And so because Amaya is a hostage, he's got to convince them all that nothing bad is happening. So he tells them that they have unwittingly been playtesting some type of weird, immersive, alternate reality game that tests you to decide what would you do in this scenario.
That he created.
Yeah, that he created.
So I get the impression that, like, the 3 dudes in the friend group are all, like, computer science guys. Like, I guess I don't know about AJ so much, but definitely the guy in London with the big tower that helped walk him through all the technical stuff. And then if he's creating a game, like, I wonder if that's how they all met, you know?
Maybe, yeah.
They're definitely all techie. Yeah. And he was talking about, you know, like he says to his friends, oh, it's for an app I was working on or whatever. And they're just like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's making some type of... And that's a thing. There are immersive horror games out there that you can play that kind of are... almost like graphical choose-your-own-adventure type things. And so they're asking him things about the decision tree and things like that. And he has most of them convinced, except for Nori. Nori is like, no, there is something deeply wrong here. And
where did you get these videos? And how would you...
She's full of questions.
Yeah.
And the Nora guy is warning Matt, okay, you got to convince her, because if you don't, Amaya's dead. So... Matt is concerned for Amaya's safety. Obviously, he's doing everything that he can to keep her safe. But he's also pretty concerned about this girl who they saw the video of in her bed. And he pulls up her Facebook profile and sees that she is missing. There's all these articles about how she's a 17-year-old girl who was abducted from her bed and has been missing for several weeks at least, right?
I think you said a week.
Okay.
But earlier, I forgot when we were first figuring out the dark web bit. And one of the guys said, I just transferred you money. So then he finds out it's a Bitcoin transfer.
Yeah.
And they pull up the guy's Bitcoin account because all the information's saved on the computer. And he has about $17,000 in Bitcoins, which transfer rate is $10 million.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like, serious money. So Matt, for a little bit of extra leverage, he transfers all of that Bitcoin into his own Bitcoin wallet. And he tells Nora, this is what I did. I'm transferring it to myself, and I want Amaya safe, and I want you to release Erica, and I will give you back the Bitcoin when Erica is reported back safe too. So Nora calls Matt and is like, do not do this. Do not transfer the money. And Matt's like, it's done. This is my leverage. This is what it's like. I'm in charge now. And Nora drops all the pixely stuff protecting him, and now he's just like some dude, like early 20s, pretty skinny, looks totally panicked, and he's like, you basically just signed our death warrants, because if they find out, if these circle of Sharons who like monitor all of this weird snuff porn crap, if they figure out that my account is drained, which they monitor, they're going to assume that I am cashing out and running, and they will kill me. And he's like, I just need to get the laptop back because if they find out I lost control of the laptop, I'm dead. So it could have been a simple switch of Amaya for the laptop, and now you've gone and screwed everything up. And pretty immediately, you find out that he's 100% right. Because the Sharon... Am I saying that right? Sharon?
No idea. I would have said, like, Charon or something.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
So Matt gets pulled against his will back into that river simulation thing. Mm-hmm. And he's chatting with a whole bunch of these buyers. And they're asking him to say, like, the secret phrase and prove that he is Sharon 4 or Nora, whichever. And he's arguing back and forth with this Nora C guy, like, give me the code. And Nora's like, we're dead anyway. Like, you give me back the money, and then I'll give you the code. And he eventually ends up giving him the code, which is this kind of creepy-sounding Latin phrase, mm-hmm. which I looked it up later, and it said it translates to basically, like, hell creates hell. Like,
something, yeah.
Something like that. So Matt types in the passphrase that he's given, and they're badgering him, like, why did you cash out your Bitcoin account? And Nora C tells him, just tell them that I switched to Ethereum because the exchange rate is better, I got a tip. And they don't get any sort of confirmation back if this, like, circle of overlords has bought this cover story or not, because he gets totally booted from the river immediately and popped back into his Skype group.
Which I took as a, okay, we accept this.
That's exactly how I thought, too. A few minutes later, their Skype session gets interrupted by a bunch of, like, what Twitter calls eggheads, or, like, on Facebook, the little default profile picture-looking things, mm-hmm. for a whole bunch of these Sharon C guys. And
there's, like, 9 or 12 of them.
Yeah, and they pop in, and the group realizes that Lex is gone. She's not in her little webcam window anymore. And she had previously gotten, like, a phone call from her mom, and so you kind of forgot about her. Mm-hmm. But she's gone now. And they force in a YouTube video into the Skype chat.
It starts with figuring out how to find Lex. So it goes through, like, this alumni page, and it's like, log in to get her address or whatever. And it, like, zooms in on the address. Like, it was basically saying, we can find any of you.
Yeah, like, it proved how they figured out what school that they all went to, how to find the alumni page, how they did, like, a drill bit exploit to get her, you know, password and login to her alumni account, which had her address. So yeah, they totally proved we can find you in a heartbeat if we want to. Mm-hmm. And then it cuts to this video of a bunch of people on the street, and they look up at the tall building, and she gets shoved off the building by, like, a pixely looking figure, mm-hmm. and falls to her death. And everyone is just, like, completely horrified.
Yeah.
And
everyone's starting to call her.
Yeah.
To see, like, was that really Lex? Did she just die?
Mm-hmm. And then the mysterious group of Sharons or whatever, they boot Lex's video from the Skype chat.
And then disappear.
Yep. Just to kind of prove that they can get to you, I guess. So now Matt's in the middle of this, like, weird juggling game where he's got to keep Amaya from figuring out that anything's wrong. He has to keep the guy that's following Amaya and keep, you know, threatening to kill her if he doesn't get his laptop back. He has to keep him from figuring out that all of these other dark web people know what's going on, because if he knows that they've figured out the Bitcoin account has been drained, he's just going to kill Amaya.
Yeah.
Punch.
Remember one time I moved a napkin holder so I could continue talking with Amaya? So, and earlier, Amaya said she was getting on the subway, mm-hmm. and that's when he told all his friends what was happening, because she didn't have access to her phone.
Yeah.
And so they had to wait for service to go down so they could talk freely, and then mm-hmm. they're trying to, like, play it cool while Amaya has service, because then the kidnapper can see them.
Yes.
But then they all start dying anyway.
Yeah.
So
Lex has just died, and Amaya's phone reconnects to the Wi-Fi in the subway car. So they all have to pretend, for the sake of her safety, that they don't know what just happened. Mm-hmm. So this, like, super awkward round of Cards Against Humanity ensues, where everyone's, like, trying to play it cool. And this is one of those moments where I was like, dang, these people can act.
Seriously. Because you could tell they were scared, but they were still playing and trying to pretend like they weren't. And mm-hmm. It was crazy.
Yeah, they did an awesome job. So they're trying to play it cool. And you definitely get the feeling that there's sort of a picking people off kind of thing. And they're assessing their situation. Like AJ, the guy who's all super paranoid and always talking about the Illuminati, he's like, I have scrubbed my web history. Like, you cannot find me on the internet. I am completely clean. And they figure Damon's safe. He's all the way in London. They can't get to him. And then the two gals, Serena and Nori, they're like, okay, well, we'll try to get away and come to you when we can, and either go to like AJ's house because it's safe, or go to Matt's house so we can all be together or whatever. And Nori is kind of standing off screen at one point, and unfortunately, like right at that moment, Amaya's connection comes back on, so the kidnapper can tell, like, why is Nori off screen? What is she doing?
Yeah, and so her fiance's like, oh, she's not feeling good. She's going to be in the bathroom. It might be a while. But
what Nori is really doing is calling a police friend of hers to come over. So they feel like, okay, they'll be safe once this cop gets there. So everyone's sort of making, like, contingency plans and deciding what they can do to be safe. And at that moment, the dark web people prove no one is safe, because they pop into the Skype chat again and they post a link to another video that shows them going through all of AJ's video blog podcasts, where he's ranting about different things like conspiracy theories and stockpiling weapons, and he's talking about a protest that's happening at a mall, and they cut all of these videos together to make, a nice audio clip. And then they call 911, and they play that audio clip.
So it basically sounds like he's saying, I'm stockpiling weapons, and I'm going to head to the mall.
Yeah, and I've got all these, like, weapons and explosives. Yeah. And then they even stole a piece from earlier in the movie where AJ says his name, and they put that at the end of it. And then they all realize that phone call, that 911 phone call, was made 10 minutes earlier. And on AJ's end of the video call, you can hear, like, people banging on the door, and you can hear that a SWAT team is, like, bursting in and, like, screaming at his mom, and they're telling him, just get down on the floor. And it's crazy tense because swatting is a real thing. Like, that's totally a thing that people have done to each other before, where, like, they call in a fake threat and they get a SWAT team to burst into people's house, and I'm pretty sure people have really died.
It wouldn't surprise me. It's,
at the very least, grievously injured.
You're calling people who are taught to shoot first, ask questions later. I mean, as a SWAT team, you kind of have to, right? Like, you're going when it's
you're only brought in
zero.
When, exactly. Yeah. Like, you're not brought in for, like, the low-level stuff.
You're trained to take care of a really big threat.
Yeah. So earlier in the film, AJ had been showing off this fancy, obnoxious new giant loudspeaker that he had, which is obviously a smart speaker because they're able to hack into it, turn the volume up crazy loud, and play a sound effect of a shotgun being cocked through it. So right when AJ gets to the bottom of the stairs with his hands up, they play this shotgun cocking sound, and you just see him get, like...
You hear the SWAT say, he's got a gun, and just start shooting.
Yeah.
And he's dead on the stairs.
Yeah.
So his video is terminated, and they're all freaking out again. So Nori decides she's going to go to the subway station. So Amaya's subway is broken down. And so Nori decides she's going to go to the subway station where Amaya is and get her, basically. So she takes off. And then they're all still freaking out. What are we going to do? What are we going to do?
Matt's, like, fending off the kidnapper, like, oh, no, everything's fine.
Right. Like, not telling him that they're all being offed one at a time.
Yeah, but the kidnapper has figured it out. And he's like, they know, don't they? And Matt's like, just don't kill Amaya. And the kidnapper says, it doesn't matter, we're all dead anyway.
Yeah.
So the video feed then targets Serena, Nori's fiance, who was left behind in her apartment with the webcam. And she's shown a compilation from her own webcam earlier that evening when she and Nori are having a conversation about should they tell their friends that they're engaged. And the conversation gets pretty heavy pretty fast because Nori is like, well, my parents aren't going to be at the wedding. And your mom is dying, and she's probably not going to be at the wedding either. And they're talking about, like, well, we could just go to the hospital tonight. She's at the ICU. We could get married there. And Serena is saying, well, bottom line, I never want to force you to choose between me and your parents. And then the hackers show 2 video feeds. One of Nori standing at the subway station way too close to the red line, way too close to the tracks. And then a video feed of Serena's mom in a hospital room. And the message is immediately clear. Like, she's going to have to choose between her family and Nori.
And it just starts counting down and it says choose.
Yeah.
And she is freaking out, like, as you would, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you make that choice?
Yeah.
Like, your mom's already dying, but she's your mom, or the love of your life. Like, you don't want to lose either one of these people.
She's sobbing. There's, like, mucus coming out of her face. Like, she is so distraught, and the countdown reaches 0, and she hasn't chosen.
And she's like, I won't choose. You can't make me. I'm not choosing. Mm-hmm. And so they kill them both. Yes.
They show the mom first, and then they show Nori, like, grappling with a guy.
And the mom, luckily, was real easy. They just turn off all of her monitors in the ICU.
Which, that cannot be a thing, right? Like, that stuff
they're
can't
computers,
be. But, I
but
mean, like,
it doesn't seem, it shouldn't be that easy.
Yeah. So, that better not be a thing. I'm worried about it now.
As far as I know, hospital security is, like, supposed to be, I mean, they try to make it as good as you possibly can, but I think things happen all the time.
Yeah. So. But yeah, the Nori death was hard because she's, like, fighting and this guy is, like, pushing her, and the video feed cuts out right as they both sort of fall into the tracks as the train is coming. So I took, like, an inch of solace in that I'm pretty sure the guy that killed Nori also died. But I'll be honest, like, at that point I was writing, like, the longer this has gone on, the less I've liked it, because that choice with Serena, that was, like, too heart-wrenching for me. It was really hard to watch.
It was really hard to watch.
Yeah. So.
Which I think is also a sign of a good movie. Like, they know exactly how to prey on your weaknesses.
Yes.
Like, you know, like, they're trying to scare you. You're scared. You're terrified.
Yeah.
So, as much as you're not enjoying it, that's what they want.
Yeah. Like, I was feeling it. And that's what I do love about horror, because there are very few things that, like, can make you respond in such a complete way where, like, your entire body is locked up and your brain is screaming. And so I also took a note at this point because this movie didn't have a whole lot of music in it. If it had music, it was because one of the characters was playing a song on their computer. And mostly that was Matt in the beginning when he's, like, working and getting things set up. What they did do was they would play these unsettling tones, and they messed around a lot with notification sounds. So, like, the Facebook notification sound for a new message is kind of like a bright pop sound. And in this movie, when the kidnapper guy is messaging Matt, they inverted the tone, so it's like this aggressive, sad sound. So it was kind of subtle, but I really liked it. But at the same time, I kept thinking about, you know, that tone that they were playing when heavy shit was happening? Like, Serena's trying to make the choice, and there's just, like, this sound that's getting louder and louder and more intense.
I don't know that I paid attention to the sound.
Oh.
You pay attention to way more of that background stuff than I do.
Yeah.
I was just like, how do you make this choice?
I was thinking this would have been mad uncomfortable in the theater.
Yeah.
Because the speakers were so loud, you know. But, so they did a really good job, not only with, like, making me so uncomfortable that I was unhappy. And also, I think, using everything. Like, they were using, like, your feelings for these characters that they barely fleshed out. Like, all of these characters are, like, little more than a sketch. But because of the authenticity and the emotions of these actors, I actually, like, cared about them. And so they used that against you. They used the sound against you, whether you noticed it or not. And the way it was filmed was so good. So at this point, I was heavily locked into the discomfort of an effective horror film.
Right. Abso-freaking-lutely.
At that point, even Amaya is like, something's wrong. The train hit something. There's something going on. And
she's like, I think somebody got hurt. The police are here, but I don't know.
Yeah.
They're keeping us on the train. And he's just like, good, stay on the train where the police are.
Well, and is it that at the point where he starts trying to communicate with her in a way the kidnapper won't know?
And he signs to her, and he tries to sign come with me or follow me. And then he says, first kiss. And so I think he's trying to say, like, find me, sort of, where we had our first kiss.
Yeah.
Because really all he does is follow first kiss.
Yeah.
So she's like, oh, okay, yeah, I know where you're talking about. You know, everybody knows where your first kiss was. So
yeah. Well, and earlier in the film, he was, like, reminiscing to himself and watching a video he had edited together about the hike that changed everything. And it's him and Amaya watching her favorite sunset spot, like a hike that they take to watch a sunset. And I presume that's where the first kiss was.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he's like, go to where we had our first kiss.
Yeah.
And he knows that by signing to her, he's in a better position than typing it out. She tries to type, and he's like, no. He's like, just sign. Just look at me. I think he even says, like, look, watch.
Yeah.
And so she's like, okay. And, like, and when she said something like, you're being weird. And so then he's like, whatever, it's fine. Let's go. You know, meet me here. She's like, okay.
And then they disconnect.
Yeah.
And the only two people left at this point are Matt and Damon, the software engineer in London. And
Matt grabs his bike and goes to meet Amaya.
Yeah. And he, meanwhile, had set up an administrative backdoor on his computer so that Damon could retrieve and back up the snuff videos and all the evidence that they can put together about, you know, this ring of people. And so Matt leaves, and Damon is crying, and there was this weird moment where I expected Damon's expression to shift and for him to be like, I'm behind everything.
I did it. I know, I did the same thing.
I don't know why. Maybe because of just decades and decades of being trained that people with accents, like especially British accents.
Well, and he was the last one standing, so you expect him to be like, ha-ha!
Yeah.
Here's my villain rent.
I'm almost like a little disappointed that wasn't what it was.
I don't know, though. I really liked how it happened.
Yeah. Because right at that moment, right when you're like, is this dude about to, like, go crazy? He starts talking to the people he knows are watching, and as he's talking, a little, like, command prompt comes up, and it lists the computer as bait computer. And someone takes over this bait computer that Matt had been using the entire time and takes over control and starts showing Damon that they have been completely puppet mastered.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Damon's saying into the screens, you guys are screwed. I have everything. Holds up this piece of paper, and he's like, this is the location of everywhere the computer's been. Like, we're turning you in. This is over.
Yeah.
And then it flips over to the bait computer.
Yeah. So they take that video from earlier where Erica was abducted from her room, and they do some pretty quick Photoshop magic to Photoshop Matt's face into it.
Which was, like, way too good for 30 seconds.
It definitely
This is when it started getting, like, a little much for me. So this was just, like, 15 seconds. They, like, cut his face out, stick it on this other guy's face, smooth it out, and you're just like, oh. And it's like, no. That's not how Photoshop works. Because otherwise nothing would be real ever. And sorry, but I mean, I know Photoshop can be done really fast.
Yeah,
but like,
well, and really well, too. They have those...
For sure, but not in 15
websites.
Seconds.
Yeah, which maybe they did it in advance, kind of like the video they put together of like how they found AJ
Maybe.
and then they sped it up. But
Maybe. But it just was too fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty fast.
Yeah.
So also the camera on Matt's computer is still turned on, so you can see a guy like in a black hoodie carrying in a woman and stuffing her in Matt's closet. And so they make it pretty clear, like, we're framing Matt for the kidnapping.
We're gonna frame you for murder.
Because we're Delta.
Unexpected John Malik.
So they lay out pretty well that the group basically fell for all of the bait. Matt took the money, so it made it look like he had been taking money to kidnap Erica. Damon transferred all the files onto his own computer, so he had them all. They laid it out pretty dang well. And then, of course, somebody sneaks into, Damon's studio and hangs him while someone else takes command.
Typing and is saying, like, Sorry, we did some terrible things, had to end it all, winky face. And then they, like, delete the winky face and put Damon.
Yeah. Which was a nice...
It was a good touch.
Little touch.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't be laughing
they're,
at
like,
such dark things.
Pulling him up in the background.
That scene was
just
really
hanging
well
from
done.
the door.
They made awesome use of a desktop.
They
because
did.
They would, like, move things around and they'd have different video feeds going at the same time. It was really well done.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, meanwhile, is, riding his bike, going to get Amaya, and she calls him and is like, hey, should I go in? And he's like, what do you mean go in?
And she's, like, in this scary-looking warehouse place.
Yeah. And she's like, you texted me a pin for a new location, and I think I should go in. And the hackers upload a video of Matt signing yes, I assume. He signs something.
Yeah. He's like, what did he say? He's like, yes, meet me. I can't remember what he said. Meet me here instead or something. It was like a whole video of him from his app thing.
Yeah, from his papaya thing.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes into the warehouse, and meanwhile, Matt is also seeing, like, that they were completely set up and everything. And then he sees a pop-up box that says,
Vote.
What?
Vote? Or was that later?
Oh, yeah. He's like, why are you doing this? And they played back a video of Matt himself saying, because it's game night after all. Like, over and over and over. So to them, it's a game. And they end the game with, vote. Should Matt live or die? And the countdown is counting down. Matt is sitting there waiting for all of these votes to be tallied. And surprise, surprise, the votes end up, no, he should die.
And they did this thing at the end where what's the name again? Sharon, whatever. For whenever they wanted something to happen, he would, like, drag the name over it, and then, like, something would happen. Mm-hmm. Like, the train would come, or they dragged it over Amaya, and then she got grabbed, or whatever. So he drags it over Matt, and a van hits him.
Yep. So he...
Like, immediately.
Somehow makes him get hit by a van. And meanwhile, Amaya is in the warehouse, and she gets taken. Mm-hmm. And that feed cuts out, too. And
so then all the people in hoods start looking at the camera and showing their faces, and they all just, like, smile and walk away.
Yeah, and it pans back from, like, a bunch of multiple computers, presumably Sharon 1, like, his computer, and there's, like, a chat dialogue box where people are, like, mocking Matt and trading bets on, like, how many times will, like, AJ be obnoxious, and how many times will Damon have to talk him down, and how many times, like, will Matt rescue Erica? They've got, like, all these side bets going on.
It's like Rat Race, but, like, in the most dark and twisted way.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I guess the ending that Jill and I saw is what they chose to put on the Blu-ray, but there were some alternate endings, too, that we read about in the trivia. So one of the alternate endings was that
they both voted to live, Amaya and Matt, right?
Yeah, that she met him at the hiking spot, and they ended up together, and the vote wasn't should Matt die, it's should they both live. And that they were asking Matt, like, well, if you give back the Bitcoin, you can live and everything. And he steadfastly says, no, I'm not giving you what you want. So they agree to let them live because they're impressed with, like, his bravery or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then there's another one that sounded totally heartbreaking where he's buried alive at the location, but Amaya can't hear him, so she can't save him.
Yeah. Which I'm real glad I didn't have to watch.
Yeah. And then there was another one where Amaya died and he lived, I guess. Mm-hmm. So he had to see everything get taken away from him, and obviously now was framed for kidnapping Erica.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, and Erica comes out of the closet at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And sits down at the computer, and there's clearly a big hole in her head.
Ugh, I didn't watch this part.
Yeah. There's, like, this big circle in the middle of her forehead, and I forgot about the thing that we talked about earlier about the holes in the head until she, like, reaches up and starts touching her forehead, and I'm like, oh crap, that's a whole thing. She's gonna pull, like, the stopper plug, like, and
from a jug of wine.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. She pulls out this hole in her head and then starts screaming, and you're like, ah.
Yeah.
Like, that was a bit too much. Just saying. bit dumb right there.
Yeah, so that was one of those things I think that costed a bottle of orange Fanta for Jill.
Yeah.
Maybe. So.
Because I was like, she's just walking around with a piece of her skull drilled open. She didn't realize until she touched her No.
I don't know. I'm pretty good at blocking things out. I could see how someone could block that out.
Not knowing it happened is one thing. Not knowing it's there immediately is completely different.
But maybe she saw herself on the webcam and saw the circle of thing.
Yeah. But like, how would she not know before that she had a giant hole in her skull?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the movie was not without its flaws.
For sure.
It was uncomfortable as hell at times for me.
But I think it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so again, I gotta give it props for that, because it did what it wanted to do.
Yeah. And Kelly's face through so much of it was... Yeah. And I'm sure I was making that same face.
Yeah.
You will make that stupid face. But yeah, overall, I know we talked about at the beginning how we felt. So now that we've rehashed the whole movie, how are you still feeling on terms of enjoyment?
I think I'm going to stick with my original 3.5.
Yeah, 3.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It was definitely... Yeah. I mean, if you can handle that type of horror... I recommend it just for the fact that it was so well done.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't remind... Okay, well, it reminds me of, like, the first one, for sure. And then it reminds me a lot of Nerve. If you saw Nerve with... I call him Baby Franco. What's his name? Dave Franco. And Julia Roberts' niece.
Emma Roberts.
Mm-hmm. And it has a bunch of other fun people in it. But... those are, like, the two main characters. But they sign up to play this, like, online dare game. And it's kind of the same deal. Like, it's all based online. The first few minutes of the movie, she's just on her computer. Windows are popping up, yada, yada. But then it switches to, like, normal feed as well. Like, you're just, normal movie. But then if she has to do something on a screen, then the screen comes up and you're seeing it through the screen.
Interesting.
So as they get dares, like, you see it through the screen. And so it kind of reminded me of that movie because there's a lot of the dark web stuff and you have to play along. Like, the whole thing is snitches get stitches, like, which just makes me laugh. I love that phrase. But, like, if you don't play along, like, there are consequences. And so once the consequences come out, you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
So it had a lot of that same kind of deal.
Yeah.
That, humans are the worst monsters, we say all the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Which is true. So when Matt is arguing with Amaya, he's, like, typing and, like, messaging her over and over, and she's doing that thing on an instant messenger where the little chat bubble pops up and you can tell that they're typing, but then it goes away and you don't get the message.
Infuriating.
Yeah. And you're like, what did they almost say but not say?
Just tell me.
And he's like, I want to fix this. So there's this Steam game called Emily is Away, and the premise is that you and your high school best friend Emily, with whom you are romantically interested but have never actually really told her, you are keeping tabs on each other, like keeping in touch through college on AOL Instant Messenger. And it's chock full of nostalgia because they use all the same little icons and all the sound effects, but... you play through every year of college and your relationship with Emily, like, changes based on the decisions that you make. And me being the big old softie that I am with, like, I'm a big romantic at heart. I want to get together with Emily, and there's no effing way to do it. Like, I played through that game every possible. I mapped out the decision tree. I was like, there's got to be a way that I end up with Emily at the end. And there's not.
That's because... as my life will tell you, having unrequited love with a best friend never works out.
Oh, Jill.
You married somebody else. You made your choice. Kelly knows I come first. It's fine.
Yeah. And you got to be my second wife for a while. Or no, wait.
Kelly's second wife. But really, I was yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, bottom line, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was That was Unfriended Dark Web, and we picked up another movie while we were at the video store, which honestly, I'm going to be brutally honest, I hope is not as scary as this one.
If I remember, it was a little more campy.
Okay.
But I haven't seen it in years and years and years. I went to see it with my friend Will, and Will moved away probably almost 10 years ago. So
it's been
I haven't seen it in a long time.
Yeah. Because I love my horror to be mixed in with more humor. And this movie had, like, no humor in it.
And I don't know that this other one's going to be too humorous, but we'll see what happens.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see, and then you'll see as we see.
We might add our own humor.
Yeah. Well, anyway, thanks for listening. This has been Scream Girl Squad.
Yay!